Marcus Rashford. In 2016, Marcus Rashford burst onto the scene, capturing the attention of the entire Premier League. A Manchester United star in the making, destined to follow in the footsteps of legends like Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham, and Eric Cantona. By 2020, he was more than just a footballer. He became a national hero, celebrated across Britain for his incredible efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. But now, 8 years after his meteoric debut, the question looms: what has become of Marcus Rashford? Once poised for greatness, his career has taken an unexpected turn. How did one of England's brightest talents find himself at a crossroads? In this episode of Football Bad Boys, we dive deep into the rise and sudden struggles of Marcus Rashford and what led to his dramatic downfall. Stay tuned.
Get through either, and here is Rashford. Marcus Rashford has rifled it in! That is a smashing goal for Manchester United!
It all started on October 31st, 1997 in Manchester, England. Born into a family of 5 children, Marcus grew up under the care of his mother. A woman of incredible strength and determination, she worked relentlessly, making sacrifices to ensure her children had what they needed, often skipping meals herself just to provide for her family. Poverty and hardship shaped Rashford's early years, and these struggles would leave a lasting impact on his worldview. "I know what it's like to be hungry," Rashford would later reflect. "Back then, my friends would invite me to dinner just to make sure I had something to eat." But financial struggles weren't the only thing occupying the Rashford household. There was also football. Growing up in Manchester meant you had to pick a side: Manchester United or Manchester City. In a city where football loyalties ran deep, Rashford's family was no different, with United fans on one side and City supporters on the other. It must have made for lively family dinners, but it was clear early on which team Marcus would gravitate towards. At the age of 5, Marcus began playing football at Fletcher Moss Rangers, a youth club known for producing talented players. But in an interesting twist, young Marcus initially aspired to be a goalkeeper, inspired by Manchester United's then-keeper, Tim Howard. It wasn't until later that his true calling as a forward would emerge. As he progressed through the youth ranks, his ability on the ball and eye for goal began to shine. By the time he was 7, he was already attracting the attention of top clubs in the region, including Everton, Liverpool, and even Manchester City, where he spent a week on trial. But ultimately, it was Manchester United who secured the young star's signature. At just 7 years old, Rashford joined the Red Devils Youth Academy. His rise through United's youth system was rapid. By age 12, he was already competing against older, more experienced players like Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard. Rashford thrived in the cage, an intense, competitive environment where young players were pushed to their limits, earning the respect of his peers along the way. By 16, he was training with the first team under David Moyes. Rashford wasn't just noticed for his technical ability, but also for his maturity and leadership qualities. He soon became captain of the U19 team, a sign of the faith United had in his potential. Then in 2015, under Louis van Gaal, Rashford received his first call-up to the senior team. Van Gaal had a curious tradition. He insisted that all forwards wear a number 9 on their jerseys. Rashford, however, was assigned the number 39, a subtle indication of his youth but also a sign of the coach's belief in his abilities. February 25, 2016, a date that would forever be etched into Manchester United history. On this night, in a Europa League match against Danish side FC Midtjylland, Rashford was given his opportunity. Injuries had forced Van Gaal to turn to the young forward, and it would prove to be a masterstroke. Rashford seized his moment with 2 goals in a 5-1 victory, becoming an instant sensation overnight. The footballing world was introduced to the next great Manchester United star, and the city of Manchester had a new hero to celebrate: Marcus Rashford, rising star and early success. In February 2016, Manchester United found themselves facing an injury crisis during a crucial European Cup campaign. With less than 13 players available, the club made the decision to bring young Marcus Rashford into the squad as a backup option. Fate, however, had other plans. During the warm-up, just minutes before the match was set to begin, Anthony Martial, the team's starting striker, suffered an injury, forcing him to withdraw at the last minute. Suddenly, Rashford, a relative unknown, was thrust into the starting lineup. The stage was set for the 18-year-old's European debut, and it would be a night to remember. Rashford made the most of his opportunity, scoring a stunning brace and becoming the youngest player in Manchester United's history to score in a European competition. The only player younger than him to do so? A certain George Best, a name synonymous with greatness in English football. And just like that, Marcus Rashford's name was on everyone's lips. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, Rashford was called up once again, this time to face Arsenal in the Premier League. The youngster rose to the challenge, scoring another brace and providing an assist, firmly establishing himself as a rising star in English football. His performances captured the attention of the entire league, and it was clear that Manchester United had unearthed a new gem. Fast forward to March 20th, and Rashford was set to play in his first Manchester derby. Once again, he didn't disappoint, scoring the only goal in a 1-0 victory. Rashford became the youngest player ever to score in a Manchester derby at just 18 years and 141 days old. It was a remarkable achievement that solidified his place in the squad. Rashford finished the season as a starter and capped it off by winning the FA Cup against Crystal Palace. His personal tally for the 2015-2016 season: 18 appearances and 8 goals. Consistent performances saw him named Manchester United's best young player of the season, and he was runner-up for the prestigious Golden Boy Award, which honors the best young player in Europe. He finished second behind Portugal's Ronaldo Sanchez. By now, everything was falling into place for Marcus Rashford. He signed his first professional contract, earning a monthly salary of $24,000, an extraordinary leap from his humble beginnings. Raised in poverty, Rashford's story was one of resilience and determination. His success on the pitch allowed him to give back to his family, particularly his mother, who had made so many sacrifices to support him. But Rashford's rise to fame came with its own challenges. Recognizing the pressures of being in the spotlight, Rashford sought the guidance of a psychologist, something he had done since the early days of his career. He wanted to be mentally prepared not just for the glory of football, but also for the inevitable hardships that come with being a professional athlete. In this, he showed remarkable maturity for someone so young, and by being open about his mental health, he was also a pioneer in the footballing world. Marcus Rashford's continued evolution. The following seasons only cemented Rashford's position as a key player for Manchester United. During his third season with the club, he made his Champions League debut and scored his first goal in the competition. However, United's journey in Europe was cut short by a round of 16 elimination at the hands of Sevilla. Back in the Premier League, however, the team fared much better, finishing second with a record number of points for a runner-up, just behind their city rivals Manchester City. It was a testament to the tactical genius of Jose Mourinho and the strength of the squad. On an individual level, Rashford's development continued to progress. He finished third in the 2017 Golden Boy Award voting, behind global stars Kylian Mbappe and Ousmane Dembélé, two of the brightest talents of his generation. Still, Rashford had nothing to be ashamed of. He played 52 games during the season, scoring 13 goals and providing 9 assists, improving on his previous season's statistics. Rashford's growing stature earned him a call-up to England's 2018 World Cup squad, a significant milestone in any young player's career. The tournament saw England embark on an impressive run, ultimately finishing 4th, a vast improvement for a national team often plagued by early exits. However, Rashford's role in the World Cup was relatively subdued. He wasn't given many opportunities to shine, and when compared to Kylian Mbappe, who starred for France and helped his team win the tournament, a noticeable gap in influence began to emerge between the two young stars. Although Rashford didn't have the major impact he had hoped for on the international stage, it was merely a setback rather than a downfall. He was still young, with plenty of time to refine his skills and cement his place as one of the top players of his generation. The journey continues. As Rashford's career progressed, he demonstrated the resilience and drive that had become synonymous with his name. Despite the challenges he faced on the pitch and the pressure of being compared to the world's best, Rashford continued to hone his game and rise to new heights. His journey from a young boy raised in poverty to a household name in English football was far from over, and the best was yet to come. Marcus Rashford, resilience and responsibility. Despite the slight setback with the national team, Manchester United remained firmly committed to Marcus Rashford, showing immense confidence in their young star. This confidence was symbolized by the decision to hand him the coveted number 10 shirt, following Zlatan Ibrahimovic's departure. While Manchester United's legendary number 7 has historically been associated with greatness, the number 10 carried its own weight, marking Rashford as a key player in the club's future. United's plans were clear. Marcus Rashford was to be the centerpiece of their attacking line, the player around whom future recruitment would be built. It was a show of faith, but also brought immense pressure and exposure for the young forward. And as is often the case with young talent, the first signs of struggle soon followed. In a game against Burnley, tensions boiled over. Rashford, who wasn't a starter that day, came on as a substitute, only to be involved in a heated exchange with a Burnley defender. A minor headbutt led to Rashford being sent off just 10 minutes after entering the game. Jose Mourinho, Manchester United's coach at the time, publicly criticized Rashford, stating that he was no longer naive and needed to understand the responsibility that came with his growing status. Shortly after this incident, Mourinho was replaced by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as head coach. Under Solskjaer's leadership, Rashford's defining moment came in the now famous second leg against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. After losing the first leg 2-0, Manchester United faced a mountain to climb in Paris. In the dying moments of the game, Marcus Rashford stepped up to take a last-minute penalty, His composure sealed a dramatic comeback and sent United into the quarter-finals. While Rashford wasn't the standout player during the match, the symbolism of him scoring the winning goal solidified his reputation as a player who could deliver in high-pressure situations. By the end of the 2018-2019 season, Rashford had recorded 13 goals and 9 assists in 47 appearances. While consistent, these numbers weren't the breakthrough fans had hoped for, especially considering the expectations placed upon him. The departures of influential figures like Ibrahimovic had left a gap, and without matching performances, both Rashford and the team appeared to stagnate. United finished a disappointing 6th in the Premier League, a significant drop from the previous season. The 2019-2020 season, preparation and setbacks. As the 2019-2020 season approached, Rashford knew it was a crucial year for him. It was time to take the next step, to justify the club's faith and solidify his place as United's attacking leader. Rashford took matters into his own hands, organizing a personal preseason training camp in Portugal, preparing himself physically and mentally before the official club preseason began. His efforts paid off as he entered the new season in peak form, sharp, decisive, and influential. His impact was immediate. With 14 goals in 22 Premier League games, Rashford was a constant presence on the score sheet and played an integral role for the national team, scoring in 3 consecutive matches for England. His 200th match for Manchester United saw him score a brace, marking another milestone in his blossoming career. But then, disaster struck. Rashford had been dealing with a lingering back issue, one he had largely ignored because of his desire to keep playing for his club. His determination to always be available caught up with him, and in a January match, he collapsed with a severe back injury. The diagnosis? A double fracture in his back, requiring surgery and months of rehabilitation. It was a major setback. As Rashford recovered, the entire world came to a standstill with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Football was put on hold, and Rashford, already sidelined, watched as the world faced its own crisis. Instead of dwelling on his injury or worrying about his career, Rashford's focus shifted. He turned his attention to the most vulnerable, families struggling to feed their children, just as his family had when he was young. Teaming up with the charity Fair Share, Rashford launched a campaign that raised over $23 million and provided over 4 million meals to families in need. His actions drew widespread praise, and when British Prime Minister Boris Johnson initially dismissed calls for free school meals during the pandemic, Rashford's relentless advocacy led to a government U-turn. His message was clear. It's not about politics, it's about humanity. Rashford's efforts didn't go unnoticed. He was awarded the FIFA Foundation Award and was honored by the British royal family, receiving an MBE from Prince William. As Rashford humbly remarked, "This is a very special moment for me and my family, particularly my mother, who truly deserves this honor." The impact of injury and pandemic. The season, however, was far from over. Once football resumed, Rashford returned to the pitch, but the effects of his injury were apparent. He managed just 3 goals in the final 9 games of the season, ending the campaign with 20 goals in total, his highest tally in a single season at Manchester United. Despite the personal achievement, there was a sense of frustration. The promising start to the season had suggested even greater heights, but the injury and pandemic had curtailed what could have been a historic year for both Rashford and the club. United finished 3rd in the Premier League, a respectable finish, but still a reminder of what might have been. 2020-2021, Champions League, brilliance, and lingering challenges. The 2020-2021 season saw Rashford make headlines once again, particularly in the Champions League. He scored 6 goals in 6 games, including a remarkable hat-trick in just 27 minutes against RB Leipzig, proving his ability to perform on the biggest stage. In the Premier League, he continued to score important goals and deliver crucial performances, but there remained periods of inconsistency, moments where Rashford's form dipped. Then, in a revealing report by ESPN, it was disclosed that Marcus Rashford had not been playing at full fitness for the past 2 years. Despite his impressive performances, he had been battling ongoing physical issues, a testament to both his determination and the toll it was taking on his body. Marcus Rashford, the fall and rise of a Premier League star. Throughout his career, Marcus Rashford has battled persistent injuries, most notably his back and shoulder, challenges that have often kept him from performing at his full physical capacity. These issues, while hindering his game, also reveal the strength of character that defines him. Rashford, despite the pain and limitations, has always made himself available to his team, an act that is both commendable and, at times, a reflection of his refusal to acknowledge the toll these injuries have taken on his body. His back injury, which occurred just before the COVID-19 pandemic, marked a pivotal moment in his career. It was an injury he had been carrying for some time, but his determination to stay on the field prevented him from addressing it. It was only when his body could no longer bear the strain that he collapsed and was forced off the pitch, revealing a double back fracture. This injury sidelined Rashford for months, requiring surgery and extensive rehabilitation. And then, the world came to a halt. The COVID-19 pandemic brought football, and nearly everything else, to a standstill. As Marcus Rashford began his recovery, the world faced its own crisis. But rather than focusing solely on his return to football, Rashford's attention turned to the vulnerable communities he had come from. Seeing the plight of families who struggled to feed their children during the pandemic, Rashford took action. Partnering with the charity Fair Share, he helped raise over $23 million and provided over 4 million meals to those in need. His campaign led to a powerful message to the UK government, forcing Prime Minister Boris Johnson to reverse his decision on school meal vouchers. Rashford's efforts were widely praised, earning him the FIFA Foundation Award and recognition from the British royal family. Yet, despite the accolades, his return to the pitch after the pandemic was far from smooth. His season was marred by inconsistencies, and though he managed 20 goals, his early season form suggested he could have achieved even more without the injury and global interruption. The Euro 2021 Heartbreak. The summer of 2021 brought another challenge for Rashford, Euro 2021. Despite being called up to the England squad, he struggled to find his rhythm. In the final against Italy, with the chance to help his country secure its first major international title in decades, Rashford stepped up to take a penalty in the decisive shootout. Tragically, he missed, and England lost. Along with fellow players Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka, Rashford was targeted with racist abuse on social media. The mural of Rashford in Manchester, which had been created to honor his contributions, was defaced with racist graffiti. Yet once again, Rashford responded with grace, sharing messages of support from fans and children and calling out the racial abuse he and his teammates had endured. "I can take criticism for my performance all day long," Rashford said, "but I'll never apologize for who I am." After the Euro heartbreak and enduring the abuse that followed, Rashford took the decision to undergo surgery on his persistent shoulder injury, keeping him out of action for 15 Manchester United games. But when he returned, things didn't improve. He struggled to regain his form, scoring just 2 goals in the 11 Premier League games he played, while Manchester United spiraled into chaos. The club went through a series of managerial changes, from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to interim coaches Michael Carrick and Ralf Rangnick, with no clear direction or stability. A new era with Ronaldo, but challenges persist. One bright spot in Rashford's difficult 2021-2022 season was the arrival of Cristiano Ronaldo, his childhood idol. However, even playing alongside one of football's greatest did not help Rashford rediscover his spark. He finished the season with just 5 goals and 2 assists in 32 appearances, far below his usual standards. His exclusion from the England national team only added to the sense of crisis surrounding Rashford. As Manchester United finished 6th in the Premier League, their bitter rivals, Manchester City, once again claimed the title. Rashford's personal struggles seemed to mirror those of his club. Reflecting on this difficult period, Rashford shared, "I've had problems for a long time, more mental than physical. Soccer is 95% mental. It's where you find happiness. And if you're not there mentally, you can't perform." His candidness about his mental health struggles and the toll of constant physical challenges further cemented his reputation as a player who refuses to give up, even in the face of adversity. 2022-2023. The comeback begins. The 2022-2023 season began with fresh hope. New manager Erik ten Hag took over at Manchester United, and Rashford seemed reinvigorated. In the run-up to the World Cup, Rashford scored 7 goals and provided 3 assists. It was enough to earn him a spot in Gareth Southgate's squad for the Qatar World Cup. Rashford didn't start for England, but made his mark with a stunning brace against Wales in the group stage. He also came on as a substitute in the quarter-final against France, but England ultimately fell short. Nonetheless, Rashford's return to form for his country gave him the confidence to carry into his club season. Upon returning to Manchester United, Rashford was electric. He scored in consecutive Premier League games and helped his team secure a League Cup title, scoring in the final against Newcastle. He ended the 2022-2023 season with 30 goals in all competitions, the first time he had reached that milestone. His resurgence earned him a new contract with Manchester United, one that reflected his importance to the club. At $350,000 per week, Rashford was now among the top earners at Old Trafford. His form under Ten Hag reignited hopes that he could finally reach his full potential and compete with the likes of Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland as one of Europe's best. The struggles continue. But just when it seemed like Rashford was back on track, the 2023-2024 season brought new challenges. Despite his previous successes, Rashford's form dipped once again. He managed just 2 goals in the entire Premier League campaign, a stark contrast to his earlier performances. To make matters worse, he was spotted celebrating his birthday at a nightclub after a 3-0 derby defeat to Manchester City. While he had every right to celebrate, the timing and optics of the event didn't sit well with fans. Rashford's late arrival to training the next day led to him being left out of the squad for the following match. Speculation grew about his off-field behavior, though much of it was fueled by tabloids known for exaggeration. The season continued to unravel, with Manchester United finishing 8th in the Premier League and missing out on European football. Rashford's performance in the FA Cup final against Manchester City was one of the few bright spots, but it wasn't enough to salvage a disappointing campaign. Despite having 60 caps for England, Rashford was left out of Gareth Southgate's squad for Euro 2024, a shocking omission that reflected the serious questions now surrounding his form and future. Where does Marcus Rashford go from here? Marcus Rashford's career has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, filled with moments of brilliance and periods of frustration. After a ghostly season and his exclusion from the national team, Rashford's next chapter is uncertain. Will he rediscover the form that made him one of England's brightest stars? Or will his struggles continue, leaving fans to wonder whether he was simply a flash in the pan? What do you think? Can Marcus Rashford bounce back and reclaim his place among Europe's elite? Or is his time at the top coming to an end? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for more episodes of Storytelling on Football Bad Boys, where we explore the beautiful game together.